Are you looking for some ways to make your lessons more interactive? Well, you already have Smartboard. You already know Smart Notebook. How about trying some new items found in Smart Lab? Smart Lab is found using this little guy right here. When you click on that in your Smart Lab menu, in your Smart Notebook menu, these items will pop up. We'll talk about those in just a minute, but first I want to make sure that you're all aware that you have your own personal account with Smart Notebook. It's automatically connected to your Microsoft or your Office 365 account. So the first thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure you're signed in. Mine's signed in already because it says sign in. If you're not, click it. It'll ask you to sign in with your Google or Microsoft. Use your Microsoft Office 365 account, sign in. The reason why you want to make sure you sign in is because this will allow you to interact and your students to interact with Smart Lab. You'll get a class code that we'll talk about in just a minute. So let's take a look at some of the items that are in here. Smart Lab has we're going to use this. You can insert Smart Lab, but we're always going to use our little alien guy. When we click on it, it will give us all of our options. It's great for all subjects, all grade levels, and it can connect to your student devices, whether it's a laptop, an iPad, or a phone, because they connect through a web-based browser. Smart Lab is Smart Tech uses our little monsters, and let me go full screen here real quick. So these are the little monsters you'll see throughout, but these are all the items that are found in Smart Lab. First, I want to let you know is that when you're creating Smart Lab activities, they'll give you options for different themes. The themes are up here: space, jungle, gardens, dragons, rock star. These are all the choices, and we're going to talk about those a little bit later. In addition, there is a handout that I prepared that will give you a few step-by-step directions that go along with this. The other components that are found in Smart Lab is they have gaming components, like you can have a timer, you can have a randomizer, and we'll look at that in a little bit, and then you have a buzzer with it. Just like I said before, you can sign into your account. This is where you're going to see the Smart Lab and get those items for you. Now, I'm going to go back real quickly here. And I'm going to show you real quickly here. Right here, this little guy is what's going to show you what your options are. I'm going to go over some of them quickly, and then really it's going to be up to you to play with them. So these are all the options that you can insert to any existing notebook or build into a notebook as you build new ones. The one items that I want to draw your attention to is this Monster Quiz says devices required. What Monster Quiz is it's a competition game that it'll automatically divide your class into teams. It will allow you to create questions that are either multiple choice or true or false, but it has to connect to a student device to play. You will then see some, you can review results and do things like that on your smart panel, but this one here has to be connected to a student device. Response 2 is kind of like, if anyone remembers those Centios, it's kind of like the Centios. It's like a little bit of an informal assessment kind of thing. You can create some exit slips this way with multiple choice, multiple answers. It can be an opinion, short answer, and when I say short, it's very short answer, true or false. So this one you can collect a little bit of data, but it's another one that has to be connected to student devices. And the third one that has to be connected to student devices is called Shout Out. Shout Out, for anyone who's familiar with Padlet, is exactly like Padlet, except instead of having your students have to go into some other device, you can just sign right into your smart class. And so what Shout Out does is it allows you to get feedback from students. You can categorize things, you can randomize them, but the students then can give a response. It'll display on your smart panel, and then you can have some student accountability, but you also can get a quick view of things, move things, and categorize those. Those are the three that have to be connected to a student device. There are two smarts that cannot connect to smart lab activities that cannot connect to a student device. Game show is one, and it's a game show. It's kind of like a Wheel of Fortune style. You can ask true or false or multiple choice questions. It divides them into two teams, spin the wheel, answer correctly, and get team points. Game show can be done whole group, but also you can set up game show to be a rotation station within your classroom. The students can go to the smart board as a rotation and do the activity without you. The second one is called Speed Up. It's a racing quiz, and it again uses multiple choice and true false. It is team oriented as well, and though that has to be displayed on your smart panel. And again, it can be whole group, or you could set it up as a station rotation. The other items all can be either whole group on the board or connect to your students' devices. And we'll take a look at those in a little bit. So game show looks like this. And when you start it, students will spin the wheel. This appears what's equivalent to 2/3. Let's try A, that's correct. And then it's the next teams. Pretty simple. Monster quiz, I'm not going to be able to really show you because I don't have anyone signed on. But what I do want to show you is how your students do sign on. When you have an activity that connects your smart panel and your smart panel and their devices, you're going to have them, let me move this over. You'll click on this. This is the device. This shows you how many devices are connected. Your students will go to hellosmart.com and then they'll put in your class code. If you've not updated to 18, it's going to say class lab. So I suggest signing up, and your number is much longer. I suggest you go ahead and upgrade to or update to 18, Smart Notebook 18. But this is my class code. It's the same class code every time. Once students sign into your class code once, they won't ever have to sign in again. They'll go to Hello Smart and up will populate any classes they've ever signed in before, and they'll say, which class do you want to join? When you're ready and you can see that students have filled in or signed in, you'll see their names appearing here. You'll click ready to start, and then it'll get started. It's a teacher run, and it'll get started. Super sort is another one of those ones where it's just a categories. You can put them into two categories. It can be whole group or it can be attached to their own devices. And again, it's the same kind of thing. When you see students have signed in, you'll see them here. If you're using more than one activity in one smart notebook, they only have to sign in one time, but each activity as the teacher, you'll push start. This is one of those extra game activities that it has here. And what this will allow you to do is if you want the whole class to do it and you want to use buzzers, and you have a smart panel that works well, the buzzers will appear at the bottom. Here's the buzzers, and I have two teams, and they can buzz in to answer the question. The second thing here is randomizer. If you want to have your students, if you have your students numbered, you can just type in that, type in numbers, and it'll randomly call on a student to call out the answer or to come up and do the answer. The other part of it, it has, you can actually put your students' names in there and do the same thing. Randomizer also allow you to eliminate a category. Say we only want to focus on physical changes. We can do that as well. So those are pretty cool. And then the last thing on here is a timer. So if you have an activity that you want timed, you can set it up that way with it. So I'm not going to go over all of these for you. It's really going to be up to you to play with them. But I do want to show you that if I wanted to make one, you always want a blank page. So I'm going to add a blank page. I'm going to go up to my Smart Lab. I'm going to model for you a fill in the blank. Fill in the blank is easy because I'm just going to type what I want it to say. And then once you're done with that, I want to define the blanks. I want that and that. Then next, pick my background. And it'll appear. There it appears. Now, obviously, this would be much more difficult if you used other, it could be vocabulary, it could be historical events, it could be all kinds of different things. It could be morphology practice. I'm going to do one more. Added a new page. I'm going to do a shout out. You can have them random or categories. I can decide if I'm going to use text or images. Usually I use text, or the kids use text because images is something they would be too challenging for them to go and get. They can have multiple answers. How many do you want them to give? I'm going to have them do one. I am going to pick two categories. Category one is what do you already know about the topic? Category two is going to be what's something you learned. You can add as many categories as you want. I always like the student names to show. It'll just show the first three letters of their name anyway, but it does allow for accountability. Plus, then I can see who I'm still waiting to give their response. The second part about it is that shout out does have some buffers in it that does not allow certain curse words and things like that to go through. So once I'm finished, it'll go like that. And when the students sign in, I push start and then their computer changes. There's a lot of amazing tools that are available for you using SmartLab. At all ages, I have high school teachers using Monster Quiz. They said their kids really love it. I just recommend playing with it, try it all out, and see what you think.